like to call to order the Presque City Council meeting for Wednesday, May 1st, 2024. Thanks everybody for being here tonight. We have 7 out of 7 councilors present, so I'll declare a quorum and start the meeting with a pledge of allegiance. Please join me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. I think there were copies of the agenda. There's normally a desk over there. Were you missing a desk? Yeah. Okay. If you need an agenda, that's right there. So the first item of business tonight is to open public hearings. The first item would be to approve. What? Oh, thank you very much. We have a new city councilor that was selected at the last meeting, so tonight we're going to do a brief swearing in for our new city councilor. So, Derek, if you and Kim would go in front, we'll get that taken care of. Thanks.
I do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Maine, so long as I shall continue a citizen thereof, so help me God. I do swear that I will faithfully discharge all the duties incumbent upon me as Presque City Council for the city of Presque according to the Constitution of the laws of the state of Maine, so help me God.
Now we have 7 out of 7 sworn councilors, so we will again start the public hearing. So the first item in the public hearing this evening is to approve a application for malt, spirituous, and vinous license for the kitchen and bath shop doing business as Confectionately Yours with a location of 2 Reach Road, Presque. So we'll start with the city manager and ask him for comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, this is for the kitchen and bath shop as well as Confectionately Yours. They have gone ahead and filled out all proper forms as well as paid the appropriate fees. They are in good standing and I do recommend approval.
Thank you. Is there anybody from the public who would like to comment for or against? We'll open the public hearing now. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and ask council for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve a malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license for the kitchen and bath shop doing business as Confectionately Yours with a location of 2 Reach Road.
Second.
Been moved by Jeff, seconded by Craig. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? 7-0. Thank you very much. Item 2 in the public hearing section for the night is to approve a renewal application for a malt, spirituous, vinous license for Ignite Presque doing business as Rodney's at 436 Main Street, the Northeastland Hotel in Presque. So, Tyler, you want to start us again?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. This is for the Northeastland Hotel as well as the various establishments they have within. They have completed all necessary paperwork, inspections, and approval is recommended.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody from the public who would like to comment for or against this application this evening? So I'll open the public comment period for discussion. So seeing none, we'll close the public comment period and ask council for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to approve a malt, spirituous, and vinous liquor license and special permit for music, dancing, entertainment for Ignite PI DBA Northeastern Hotel, Presque Hotel Company with a location of 436 Main Street.
Second.
Been moved by Craig and seconded by Gary. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Thank you, 7-0. Thank you. Item 3, public comment period is an amend Chapter 16 Land Use Code. So this is a little different.
A little bit different. I'm going to have Mr. St. Peter come up and discuss. He does have the next 3 items. We'll give a little bit more information regarding the background of these changes.
Good evening, Council. Before you, the first topic is the Land Use Code, Chapter 16. We've done some updates. I'm gonna run down real quick through the updates, kind of touching on them, and then answer any questions you guys have. So we updated definitions. Part of them were some new definitions because of new sections, new parts to this. Some we clarified, we expanded some. Land use table, we had to add some uses for the LD 2003. We've adjusted some other uses in where they can go. One of them was like the solar generation fields. They can't be in business zones anymore, to remove them from our residentials, downtown areas, those kind of things. One thing we also used, we adjusted the use for those. In the standards table, which is the next section, and they kind of go together, we adjusted one of the big things we changed from building coverage, which is talking about physical structure, to lot coverage. We didn't change the actual percentages, but lot coverage usually deals with impervious surface versus just a building. So a little bit different there. One of the other things to note there is we did add a footnote for the downtown section zone. I found in some research that some of the buildings, although very large, could support very little residential development if that was what's wished by the developer. So we added a footnote in there to change the density to allow for a greater number of units. It does not change the fact that we still require business on the first level or anything like that. And it's very specific. It doesn't allow for expansion of buildings with that increased density. They have to meet the standard density requirement. But within the already existing footprint, they can have an expanded density if allowed, if they meet all the other stuff. Applicability section. When this section was created, there was no piece for revision to, so if a developer came in, they have to meet all these standards. These are the triggers that decide whether the planning board sees the plan or if it's just done through our office. There was no criteria for revision. So it's been a question a couple of times. Developers come in, we approve their plan, and they come back with a revision for whatever reason. A couple months later, is it done administratively through the office? Is it done by the planning board? Now we have some clear criteria on who's going to see it when. Parking, we updated parking, again, goes with the uses. We've got employer-sponsored housing that we added in there. LD 2003 pieces were added in there. Which brings us to probably our largest changes. Section 4 is the addition of LD 2003 and the state language that goes with it. We were presented with a model ordinance, which we adapted into our land use code. There's multiple pieces to it. For the most part, planning board did make a couple of changes to it, very minor. But for the most part, it is the model language that we adopted. Section 7 is sidewalk standards. Part of this requires, it's on new development, requires sidewalks to be made from buildings to parking lots. If there's already sidewalks near, they have to connect to the public sidewalks. Gives us some standards for sidewalks and what they may look like. And then section 12 is our standards for development. Within there, you'll find employer-sponsored housing, which we are, when we did the research for this, we'll be the second town in the state of Maine to do it. Bar Harbor is the other one. Although there's plenty of places that have similar, we're one of the first to actually regulate it. And then solar updates, solar or development updates. We put some other stuff in there, co-development, dual use, which require multiple uses of the same property. Probably not going to get into anything crazy, but The developer should be using the ground for not just solar panels, but for some other stuff, whether it be apiaries or grazing by farm animals, or there's got to be a second use to it. And then decommissioning standards for projects less than 3 acres, because DEP does not trigger those. Okay, I think that's it for that one. Questions? That was a lot, so.
Yeah, there's a lot to chew into this. All right, hang out, and we'll open it up for public comments,
'Kay.
and we'll go from there. So this is a public hearing for the amendments to the land use code. So anybody who'd like to speak for or against that, now would be the opportunity for public comments. So would anybody like to speak on this? Hope she's okay. We'll close the public comment period then, and we'll open it up for discussion. And comments, start about staff. Staff approving this, looked it over, we're good to go.
Yes, we've, multiple department heads as well as myself have met. We feel that this will, all of these changes will certainly assist us in our growth initiatives.
I got a chance to review this a little bit, and I'm kind of curious, Tim, about a couple of things on the sidewalk. We've got a major downtown thing coming up, a couple of years out, maybe, or less. It's kind of mandating a 14.5-foot sidewalk in that zone. Just, I'm sure you guys taped it off. What are we at roughly down there right now?
I'm
It varies.
to be on. It does. To be honest with you, I don't know because I didn't do the research on that section. These additions were actually started last fall, and Galen did all of the research on that section. I have read through, and I agree with you. It does stretch out. I think currently, from what I've seen, I want to say it's right around 12 feet. So these
We'll get back to you with some measurements. We'll get our accurate data and get back on that.
I guess the point that I'm thinking is, are we like 11.5 feet and we're taking 3 feet to make this, or, is it gonna tie our hands as far as future design of what we wanna do in a year or two? So
I don't think so.
I don't think so. So
No, when we talked about it, I talked about it with Dana too. We don't feel it will.
Yep. I'm not a downtown expert, right? I don't walk down there very often. And it's probably around 12, 13 feet right now. So a foot or so is no big deal, but if we're chewing into a lane or something else that hampers our vision for what we want to do in the future, I'd be concerned. The rest of it, I didn't have any issues.
No, and I don't think it'll change anything with the vision that is as of right now.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments or yes, Doug?
I got a few talking points here. Probably gonna want to stay up there.
Okay.
I guess in general, what prompted all this? All of these additions and that. I mean, I get the grammatical stuff, but
So some of it is grammatical, and those are just corrections from previous times that we missed. LD 2003 is a state mandated, and I believe we were mandated back in January to actually have this in effect. We're behind the ball, but I think quite a few main towns are, so not surprising. Employer-sponsored housing is something that I've actually had a couple of people come to us and talk to us about doing this. They're looking to bring migrant work in, but there's no, not necessarily relief from code, but if we left it the way it was, we're looking at having more lodging establishments, which can get into other regulations that are cost prohibitive. They won't meet the need for what we are. So by regulating it, we can do so. We're not putting anybody's safety in jeopardy. Everything that was through those standards has been through the research, and it covers everything from living quarters to linens, laundry facilities, all of those topics. So we went through in our research and found quite a bit. Bar Harbor, again, regulates this. The federal government actually has quite a bit of regulation on this, although we're quite a bit stricter than them in many ways. Spacing is in line with code currently. That's what code requires for spacing,
Spacing of,
like bedrooms and stuff. So the 70 square feet in a bedroom. And that's where, like, primarily these people are going to start with the bedroom and then have common space area. It'd be very similar in the conversations that I've had with people, very similar to a dorm.
so why can't this be covered under like a rooming house ordinance?
Rooming houses aren't allowed in all the zones. Like, I think then we would subject them to the lodging establishment rules. I don't have it in my.
Well, which part of that is complaint driven, or is
Right.
that also probably more centralized
So
fire safety thing?
one of the biggest differences between like an employer-sponsored housing and a lodging establishment, whether it be motel or hotel or rooming house, is that you don't have tenants. You have tenants that reside there, but they're your employees. So you would have control over that somewhere. You're not having people that are coming and going on a regular basis. Like in a hotel, you're there for a weekend, for a week, you move on. So you don't have that exchange.
So why would you say not required to provide parking?
So that was something that the planning board questioned. In a lot of this, the employer is, I don't think we did it, but the employer provides transportation. Thank you. Transportation.
So is that a mandate under an employer-sponsored housing project that the employer must provide transportation? Or can those?
I know we discussed it, but I don't remember if we actually
I
mandated
think it
it.
depends on the situation.
So
but
it's very possible that half of these employees have vehicles.
Some of them will have, yes.
Just say,
And you're not
Well, they-
requiring any parking at all
not currently,
based on this.
based on that right there.
Does that make sense?
Actually, I take that back. Parking is, but it's at a very minimal. In the off-street parking section, you will find employer-sponsored housing shall not be required to provide parking when in the in the ag farm zone. Standard for rooming house will apply in all other zones. So when they're in the ag farm zone, we assume that they're going to have plenty of room to park whatever vehicles, whether at the farm or in every other zone. They'll be required to have the same parking as rooming houses, which is one space per residential unit.
They
So
will be.
right, that would be the minimum. That would be your number for rooming houses, which I'd be in the plan review. I'd be looking at bedrooms at that point.
Okay, because it does not say that in the parking chart. It specifically says employer-sponsored housing shall not be required to provide parking. Oh, it's got different colors there. Okay. That
So
continues
yeah,
on
there
to the
might be
next
some.
sentence.
All of your paperwork shows the additions, deletions, all the substitutions. So there might be something different there.
Yep, yep. I will rescind on that. The solar stuff for land use, so you've got permitted locations in basically the outskirts for solar generation facilities.
Yep.
What constitutes that for acreage? Or is it megawatts or?
So are you asking like what
if I
size
wanna put-
project?
Yeah, what if I wanna put 8 panels up at my house?
I don't think we have a specification for that. So you at your house would not be a solar generation facility.
That's what I was wondering, what triggers that?
We have a definition for it, and I don't think it's in this list of definitions because we've had it before. So it would be in your land use code, in the copy of land use code. And I don't know the definition right off the top of my head. So
Okay. So what about the existing projects that are either partially completed or obviously the ones that have completed, you're
Right.
not gonna tear them down?
no. So anything that's currently existing, it was permitted under previous regulations. This will affect anything coming in new.
Land acreage coverage I've got a big problem with. You've expanded the definition to not only be the building, but to be the impervious surface,
Correct.
AKA parking lot.
Yep.
Okay. There are many people that have parking lots or driveways that are much bigger than their house. So at the same time, you're requiring there to be less coverage. You are also requiring an increase in the affordable housing area from 2 to 3 off-street parking spaces per motor vehicles.
So part of we're at two different standards.
But that one would apply to the other.
Right. One will apply to the other, but they'll have to adjust the project to meet those standards.
So they gotta buy more land.
And at any point, a developer can ask for a waiver from these standards.
Well, if there's 10 of these different standards asking for waivers, they're just gonna say, screw it, I'm not doing it. That's I mean,
Potentially.
we're not Portland, Maine.
So lot
not
coverage has always been the normal standard.
For building.
Ours has always been building.
Yeah.
But when you look at other ordinances, especially if you get into DEP stuff, they talk about lot coverage. In fact, the shoreland zoning never talks about building coverage. It talks about lot coverage because, again, it is talking about impervious surface.
Mm-hmm.
So buildings, gravel driveways, pavement, all of that.
So this is for any zone.
Yeah. It's so that specifies in that chart. You can see that the different zones are shown in there. So like in the airport hazard and in the ag farm, you're allowed 15% coverage in the retail business district. So on the north side of town, Main Street, there's no requirement. Business zone, there's no requirement. Industrial, there's no requirement. The suburban commercial zone, which is just on the other side of the bridge, is 15%. Downtown, there's no coverage. You get into the residential zones, and we're at 25 with the exception of the source water protection, which is 15. And then the general development zone does not. There's an asterisk, so I won't say what it has because I don't have. I think it refers to, but I don't have the footnote in front of me.
So the footnote on that setback and density exemption.
So that is the new set footnote, and that applies to the downtown retail business district, which is our downtown village area.
Okay, so in that second chart where it shows minimum lot size per additional dwelling unit, say in residential office zone, 4,000 square feet.
Right.
That's not being changed to 1,000.
No. And we can expand if we want to increase density in some of the other zones. We can apply the same footnote to that, but currently that only applies to the top chart red column is the downtown zone.
Okay, so going on to the next page, page 10, revisions for approved site plans to trigger revision. So any revision of an expansion of the impervious surface by 500 square feet has to go through a planning board.
Right. So
if I want to add a expanded parking or
so that wouldn't apply to you. So if you come in to start with a project, the applicability column starts. So commercial development, expansion of business footprint that exceeds 1,000 square feet of new impervious or 500 square feet of floor space. So if somebody comes to us and says, we're going to put a 3,000 square foot parking lot in, and then they say, hey, we've got a little extra room, we want to add in a little bit more, We want to make it 4,000 square feet. Yes, it'll have to go back to the planning board.
So I've got an existing building that I wanna put 500 square feet more of pavement for parking.
No.
No
This-
what?
You would fall under my review because it's still a new project.
So you would get planning board approval?
Right. So, again, the first step in the project is getting site plan. And, like, as an example, if you were to add 500 square feet today to your parking lot, you would come to us and fill out a building permit, provide a site plan, and we would approve it in-house administratively through our office.
But if it was $499, you don't? $499.
No, anything less than 500 square feet.
So, do you know how small 500 square feet is?
So that's 500 square feet of new business. Yes, I do realize this. And
I
the
mean,
planning
that's-
board,
That's about probably the size of this room.
this room's probably bigger than that.
So it's even smaller than that. So I want to pave an area smaller than this damn room, and you want me to go to
So
an
those-
approval with the planning board?
You guys already, and actually no, that's not correct either. You guys have already approved those standards. So 500 square feet of new floor space.
Yeah,
So
I
you-
want to expand the parking lot.
That's not new floor space. That's impervious surface, which is above it at 1,000 square feet. So again, still a low barrier. When we developed these, we said, we'll put some numbers in, see what the planning board thinks. The planning board said, well, let's work with them and see what we get. I will tell you, a lot of plans go to the planning board, but they have not opted to change those yet.
Well, this specifically says, any revisions to an approved site plan that result in the expansion of impervious surface by 500 square feet or an increase of 10 feet height.
Right. So that's when somebody comes into us with, and like we approve, the site plan gets approved by the planning board, or even us administratively. Then when they come back in, because they've changed their project for whatever reason. In fact, I've had a solar project move their project around, but they haven't increased size at all.
So
They
this
just
is
keep moving
an
things.
Existing new build, permitted, all that, and say, give me
Right.
a little more parking.
Right. So, as an example, if somebody wants to add a couple of parking spaces, no, it's probably going to be done through me,
Even if it's over that 500 square feet.
even if it's over 500 square feet, and unless it's a project that just got permitted.
Okay, that clarifies that, definitely.
While Doug's reading a little bit more, and I will get right back to him, I got a quick question.
Sure.
How many of these standards and footages and everything else is adopted by many other communities that you modeled after? Or is this really customized just to us?
I couldn't answer that question.
Because I got a feeling that this has evolved over a period of time.
Yep.
That's based on what many, many communities have.
Yep. So when we developed the standards, and again, this goes back a little ways, we wanted to make sure that there wasn't 99.9% of the projects were going to get triggered by some of this. But one way or another, we were going to review every project that came to town. That way we can make sure it fits what we need, what our goals, what our standards are.
But you do that through the building process, building permit process anyway.
So the building permit is more related to the building itself. As part of, in big projects, like we require a site plan also. And that's where the site plan comes in and talks about the drainage, egress, parking, all of that part. So in part, yes, the building permit, we can trigger standards off of that, but the building permit is also related to the building. So this is a two-step process, it involves more people with more community.
Go ahead, Doug.
The off-street parking standards,
Yep.
those have not changed.
The only ones that have changed is the employer-sponsored housing. I think that was it.
Yep. And the residential density, saying it's a new section for LD.
Yep. So
2003.
LD
That's what you were
2003.
referencing in the beginning.
Right.
So this all conforms to the state LD 2003?
Yes.
I guess what is our modification to that?
The parking, and there is one section, and so under accessory dwelling units, no, that's just, I just removed and added in our stuff. there is one section that that would have granted up to 4 units, and I believe that we changed it back to 2. Give me just a moment here, I'll find it.
Like allowing 4 units on a property without.
Right, so that's undeveloped. Okay, so under B, residential density, and then subsection B2, it says if the lot contains 2 or more existing dwelling, no more units would be allowed. I don't have the comment in there, but that was expanded before to allow, I think it was up to 3 units. And the planning board looked at it and said, well, why are we going to allow 3 units on this when like the other one only allowed 2 units anyway? We want those to match. So that one, and then the parking, for affordable housing, it was supposed to be at least 2 off-street parking spaces for motor vehicles must be provided for every 3 dwelling units. Well, now it's 3 spaces for every 2 dwelling units, for the reason that generally people around here have more cars. Like, we don't have a mass transit, so you end up having a car.
Yep.
So I will say that may not meet the standards. That is a little bit more restrictive. We may find that, which later on we may have to change.
Yeah, on a normal, this affordable housing is essentially an apartment building that's
Correct.
met these other standards.
Yep.
So on your typical apartments, you've got 2 spaces per unit.
Right.
So this is still less.
Right. It's going to be a little bit less than our regular, like, if you want to come in and just build an apartment house, then we're going to require 2.
Yeah.
If you come in with the affordable housing and all of those requirements, then we're going to allow you to have a little bit more.
Yeah.
There's a lot to digest there.
Yeah.
Section 12, land use, solar generation. This was, I wasn't fully understanding, but you had brought up that, was it only in certain situations that you have to have a multi-use of the land? As
No.
in solar farm
So-
and then grazing cattle?
So, in here, we require either dual use or co-location. Most likely what we are going to see is apiaries, which is just wildflowers. Apiaries, habitat for bees is what we're looking at. So in all of our sites so far, we've pushed the developers to replant with wildflower mix so that we get flowers in between the panels, theoretically. And that's going to be continued. It's a low-cost option for the developer. In other places, downstate, they'll grow blueberries in between the panels. In certain places, they let goats roam and feed. So this is one of those like all-encompassing. For us, most likely, we're going to see apiaries.
So you're already limiting to where these can go going
Yep.
forward. Why do you need a dual use
To promote better use of that land.
that you can't see because the panels are blocking it?
Just because you can't see the panel or like you can't see the ground doesn't mean that like the bees shouldn't have habitat though. And this is an easy like win for wildflowers and stuff like that to increase habitat. It may or may not have been habitat before. Most of what we've seen has gone onto farm ground. We've got a couple that were in just vacant lots in general. But this will actually be more productive land than some of just those vacant lots.
Okay. So, and is that monitored? Or what happens, they plant all these wildflowers and then they die the first year?
They're going to have to come in and plant it again. They can't have impervious surface, and gravel is considered impervious surface. So they're going to have something in there
Gravel is considered impervious surface.
by DEP.
Okay. So you just flat out cannot take a field going forward, put in a huge solar farm, mow around it, make it look decent, put your fence around it, and call it good.
No, we've got buffering now,
I want
so
buffering.
we require buffering.
Well, yeah, around the edge there.
Okay, you're still going to be able
for
to mow,
viewing.
right? You're still going to be able to mow around it if you want. You can mow. I think you can mow once or twice inside. Like, we're not going to get too crazy because you need to control that to a degree.
Yeah.
What we don't want is people in there mowing it every day or every other day. Like,
Why? If they own the property, why not?
because again, you're not encouraging better habitat. And I mean, you've taken some of this habitat from other places. So these are
Well, you can't put these in a wetland or something.
actually, to some degree, you can.
Well, and I would think DEP or whomever would get involved in the
There's a
requirement
lot of hurdles to clear, but
I'm gonna ask that we move on. If you could make a conclusion, Doug, I'd appreciate it. So, but we
I'm
allow,
making my conclusion here. There's a lot of crap in here that doesn't need to be.
that's a conclusion.
There you go.
There you go. Somebody else have any other comments? Counselors?
I understand, I guess, most of it, to a point. I'm not gonna say I understand all of it, but, but I get where you're going. What I wonder though, I guess, and I guess the big question for me is, if someone's coming to the area, and they say into our relative communities, and they say, I wanna do something in Presque versus I could just go a few miles up the road and do it in Caribou, or I could go to Easton, or I could go, how much more restrictive are we going to be under some of these types of things? Do you expect making it attractive for people to do business here? I guess that's really my biggest thing, you know. I mean, does Caribou have this same type of structure that they would be
I
looking
have
at these things?
no idea what Caribou has.
I'd like to know how this compares to surrounding communities.
Because I guess my concern is, I mean, I understand the solar thing, and we've had a lot of people kind of outcry, if you will, about moving those types of things to the outer areas of town, and so I think that's a great change, and that's a lot of good work done there. I guess, but as far as some of these other things, I guess, and it does, we don't have to do this for tonight. I'm not asking that, but I just think in general, that it probably would be worth our while to, where we've got a business-friendly community moniker, to kind of really look at how we are in a competitive state with our neighbors is all. Because, you know, if we're competitive, and you know, that's great, but if we're not competitive, then we ought to know if there's some really glaring items that might make someone not want to be here. I guess that would be my only thing. And again, I don't have that answer, and I'm not pointing at anything. I'm just saying, I guess that would be my only concern going forward.
Okay.
Tyler?
We can certainly establish a commission over the next few weeks to discuss this with developers in the area.
Yeah.
And have that discussion,
Get their opinion.
further discussion, understand the barriers if you wanted to table this for now.
That'd be sufficient.
No, I would like some other, I mean, I don't know to what extent the planning board has gone. Obviously, they've done a lot of work here. I'm respecting that, but not being involved in the everyday discussions, a lot of these do not make sense to me.
Well, in light of that, I guess I do get that, but I also really get the urgency of the solar part of this, because, you know, people are coming in for permits constantly, and I guess I think that, to my mind, is worth the, you know, it's worth taking the chance on the rest of it. If the answer is we can look at this with developers, we can do what Tyler suggested, and then go back and revisit any of the sections later, I'm fine with passing it as it is. But I just want to make sure we do that. You know, I guess that's, because I hate to see some of our farmland that's already being
How's the,
impinged, you know?
give us a peek under the tent. How rushed are you for more developers right now for solar? Is it really slacked off, or?
We don't have anything on the docket for solar. Everything that we have is currently already gone through site plan and approved. So we have some
And this
projects
wouldn't-
under construction.
And this
but,
wouldn't apply to any of those guys.
it wouldn't apply to any of those.
I like
So-
the suggestion of taking another few weeks. I recognize the urgency, but I would urge that we develop some questions and talking points. And this is far-reaching and far-encompassing.
Mhm.
It can be modified at any point in time.
It's a
There's
living document.
many amendments on here over the last 10, 12 years. And I think there's some great points that have been raised tonight. And if we're not comfortable completely passing it as written,
Mhm.
we need to probably do something different. So that's a comment. Anybody else have a comment?
Wouldn't it be a good idea also, when the planning board is going through this, some of us be present?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
this
you can
seems
put it
like
on the next
a
planning
lot
board
of us
agenda.
could be a kind of a collaborative effort.
We've had joint meetings before.
Yeah.
We could do it.
I think that could be beneficial.
Good point. Any other comments? If not, does someone like to make a motion?
We're gonna table this till the next.
I think so.
To the next meeting.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd like to make a motion to table agenda item number 3 until the June 2024 meeting, council meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Jeff and seconded by Hank. Is there any other comments? All those in favor of the table? All those opposed? 7-0. Okay, thank you very much. Good comments, great discussion, guys. Thank you. Tim, that was great, but we're gonna ask to have you come on back up to talk about item 4 in a minute here. So again, we're in the public hearing process for Chapter 16A, which is shoreland zoning. We'll start with the city manager.
Yep, come on back up, Tim. And if we could make sure we speak into the microphones. Online cannot hear us.
1, 2.
Okay. So Chapter 16A is a lot less to digest here. It is a very large document. That being said, it is 99.9% the state model ordinance. The pieces that we've changed, I did adjust it to match what is currently in effect. One of those sections is that we don't allow expansion of buildings within 25 feet of the water. The new model ordinance would allow that. I changed it back to not allowing anything because that's what our current ordinance has in it.
25 feet of what?
Of the shoreland,
Of-
of the high water, normal high
Water,
water
okay.
mark.
So it has to be at least 25 feet, you're saying?
Yeah, it has to be at least 25 feet back before we can start expansion.
Okay.
So that was one piece. One piece that was added in by the state is that when people do projects in the shoreland, they need to take pictures before and after. That's been something that's been missing for a little while, and one of the pieces to update it. The other updates that got to this was that the model ordinances deals only with the planning board. Ours deals with the zoning board for different pieces. So I made those changes. Other than that, it's all the state ordinance. Timber harvesting was repealed out of the shoreland zoning. It's been given to the Department of Ag and Forestry. Presque Isle has chosen option 2 for quite some time. We work in partnership with Department of Ag and Forestry Conservation to work on any violations that may come up. So we partner with them when necessary.
Thank you. So we'll open it up to the public hearing and ask if there's any people that would like to speak for or against this application. Now would be the opportunity, so I'll open the public hearing up now. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and ask for city council comments. Anybody have any comments about Chapter 16A, shoreland zoning? Yes, sir.
I won't be very long this time.
You were fine last time.
Well, you told me I wasn't.
All good
The,
things come to an end.
You spurred the 25 feet to shoreland distance. Is that what you said?
So within this document, there's certain regulations on where and when you can expand. the new model ordinance allows expansion within 25 feet. Our old ordinance did not. So I made the new one match our old one.
Our old one allowed what?
It didn't allow it for expansion within 25 feet. So part of this is also done in stages. So the first 25 feet, then we go to 75 feet, and then you go upwards of 100. Most of our zoning is all resource protection and very limited on what you can do within 250 feet of the normal high water mark.
Okay, so you're making it more liberal that you can expand.
You can't expand within 25 feet. So if you have a building that's 15 feet from the normal high water mark and you come to me and you say, I want to expand that, I'm going to tell you no.
What if you're 25 feet and you want to expand it to 15 feet?
You wouldn't be able to go any closer to the resource.
Okay.
So if you were at 35 feet from the normal high water mark and you want to add on going the other direction, yeah, there's limitations and regulations that come with it, but yes, you can do that.
Okay, so you brought up, so the expansion, that is only towards the high water mark or in general?
Has to be, it can't be any closer to the resource.
Okay, so if you're in that 15 feet or 25 feet to it, but you want to expand the opposite direction.
So anything within 25 feet can't be expanded. And when you look at this, the shoreland zoning gets kind of deep in the weeds. When you look at this, you can look at the building sections. So if you had a building that was 50 feet long, like it covers some area. So you'll have to take the different sections as they are, where they are, and what can be expanded in those. So one of them, and I think it's up to 800 square feet. So if you have a building that's within 75 feet of the high water mark, you can expand it up to 800 square feet. Okay, so it can go up to as a maximum of 800 square feet.
Not in addition, but that's the entire.
Right.
Okay.
They also had a regulation for within 25 feet.
Mm-hmm.
I've removed that essentially, and just said no expansion. If your building is within 25 feet, you can't expand it.
So we're stricter.
Yes, stricter.
Okay. And does that now point to impervious surfaces rather than just a building?
This has always been impervious surface. I think they allow a 20% lot coverage.
Okay. Have something here. I don't know where this begins. Non-conformance, 12. 12. Jesus, what is this? 12C4. Reconstruction or replacement.
Yep.
So that is if you're within that setback and something drastic happens to the property.
Yep.
And you want to rebuild there.
Right.
You can, but you've reduced it from 18 months to 12 months.
Again, that was to match what our current ordinance had for language.
Current ordinance in,
So we currently have a shoreland zoning,
yeah,
and it only allows for 12 months, 1 year.
the 18 months is what, state?
Is what came in the model ordinance.
Okay,
So I just made that match what we currently had in place.
okay. My concern with that is that with being in that zone, there's obviously going to be more agencies involved.
Yes, DEP gets involved, and so after you guys approve this is still got to go to them for approval.
Well, I meant someone who wants to rebuild. They're going to have to get other agencies involved because of where they're located.
Yeah, chances are they're going to have to talk to DEP.
And that takes more time. And
It
this
possibly
is,
could.
This
So
is reducing the time.
they need to obtain a building permit. You don't have to have your building built within a year, or you just need to obtain a building permit.
Okay. It's
Yeah.
not done.
Like, yeah, we trigger it off when the building permits comes in. So
Okay, that's all I got.
Is there any other comments or questions for Jim?
Is this to do with any of the lakes, Tim, or is this just the
this includes
natural lakes, man-made lakes? What's it constitute?
all the above. In here, it will list exactly what it entails, but it includes both of the lakes the river, Presque Stream, and any other stream or waterway that is shown on mapping. So if you look at our GSI program and click on the zoning 2021, you'll see the map. If you're zoomed out, you'll see a bunch of red lines. All of those are regulated under that.
Craig, you got a comment?
No, not particularly, just kind of just more informational. So if, say, for instance, down along the Presque Stream, we ended up with a situation where someone said, geez, I'd like to buy one of the houses on the other side where we've done the TIF zone, and they said I wanted to put a restaurant across from Riverside Park. This is going to come into that.
So the Presque Stream is, it could, it very well could. The Presque Stream from Dyer Street through Park Street, from State Street to Park Street on Dyer Street is actual general development zone. And that is regulated at 25 feet. Part of that is a general development and regulated at 25 feet from the high water mark. So with that, like, you're allowed more room to work.
Okay.
So, also one of the things before I forget,
I
is,
was thinking more like exchange.
part of that, there may be some things there. A restaurant may not be allowed in the zone. I think most of that is urban residential, and our regular land use may not allow it. I don't know right off the top of my head.
And I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's going to happen. I'm
But-
just kind of just curious. on
Yeah,
it,
like as an example, I couldn't tell you, but yes, we would have to compare that like through this ordinance to make sure that it could happen. In some spaces it could, in other spaces it may not.
Okay.
One of the things we did here increase was density. So I think it's under 15. So 15 is our land use standards. Minimum lot size in the general development district. Residential dwelling is 7,000. That conforms with our land use code. So some of these are already standards in place, but you'll see the same standard, again, residential dwelling unit at 7,000 square feet and additional units at 1,000. And they still require the 200 minimum shore frontage, but that's in alignment with what is already allowed for residential units.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Any other comments? Would anyone like to entertain a motion? The chair would like to entertain a motion.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I would move that we adopt the changes to Chapter 16 Land Use and Development Code Ordinance.
Second that.
Been moved by Craig and seconded by Derek. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Opposed? None? Okay, 7-0. Unanimous, thank you. Motion carries. Next item is, under public hearing, is the approval of a lodging establishment license for Scott Karen SMC Holdings.
No, we got,
Life
the
safety
amendment.
code.
38B.
Oh, I'm sorry. Amendment to Chapter 38B, Life Safety Code. We'll start with the city manager again.
Yes, this discussion conforms from last year when this life safety code was sunsetted, and this is a review to have it placed back within our ordinance.
All right.
Good evening, sir.
Evening.
Nice
Long
to
time no
see
see. So in January, 38B was allowed to sunset for a couple of different reasons. Before you is the updated amended version. The one thing that we've really changed was that under Section 1, Adoption of Life Safety Code, we changed the language so it just adopts whatever is current with the state. Before we had dates and stuff like that in there. It stated the 2009 edition. We were actually in the 2018. So we're updating that language to just adopt whatever the state adopts when they adopt. You will notice that per the conversation from January, those pieces are missing. With the ordinance was also the attached rules or pieces from the state that already adopt that in their language. So by adopting what they've adopted, whatever year, these rules also follow that. We'll be adopting these rules as also. So we don't need to specifically have them in our ordinance.
Okay, thank you. So we'll open up the public hearing for public comment about 38B Life Safety Code, right? That's what we're on, okay. So is there any comments from the citizens and stuff at this time for this item in front of us? So open up public hearing for that. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and ask for council comments. Is there any counselor that would have any other comments regarding 38B?
Clarification. The memo, it appears, are kind of from State Fire Marshal on the latter part of that. Is that like a full-blown addition to what we had before, or was this
So
previously in it?
So the one that's Department of Public Safety and then Office of the Fire Marshal, that is state adopted language that they use in statute. So they adopt the 2018 Life Safety Code, NFPA 101, and then these are the additions, subtractions, alterations they make to it. And this also includes, if you read through the summary, it includes a handful of different standards, but one of them being the NFPA 101. And Section 1C specifically addresses the stair risers, guards, treads, and nose tread, and it changes it back to what we want to see.
Okay, so this is not exhaustive by any means, it's just telling you what has changed.
This is
The,
what they
chapter
adopt.
20.
Right.
Okay. And just going back to the original part that whatever they adopt, we're adopting.
Right.
So Tim, to my question before, basically, if any community adopts what the state has for this, which I'm guessing they're kind of more or less required to do, we're gonna meet the same requirements they do, any
Right.
other community.
So these are state adopted codes.
Right.
And as part of that, state statute requires anybody building to meet state adopted codes, whether it be NFPA 101 or the IBC or whatever it is.
Right.
I can't speak to enforcement.
Is that in any size town?
Any size town.
Okay, so these half rumors that you can go out east wherever in a town of 500 people and not abide by this is
Right.
technically illegal?
Technically. So enforcement wise, the state mandates that any town over 4,000, with a population of over
Okay.
4,000, we are mandated to enforce the building codes, not so much the life safety code, but the building codes.
Okay.
That doesn't change when you go to the other towns, with the exception of they aren't mandated to enforce them. People are still required to build to them, but not. So anybody that comes here to build a restaurant, if they go anywhere else in the surrounding area, they still have to meet these codes.
Whether it's in a small town or not?
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
This
Any
has been
other
very
comments?
educational to me.
Good answer.
Any other comments for Tim? Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it. All right, we're still on 38B. Anybody like to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the changes to Chapter 38B Life Safety Code.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Hank, seconded by Craig. Is there any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? 7-0. Thank you very much. Now, we're gonna talk about item 6. In the public hearing to approve a lodging establishment license for Scott Karen SMC Holdings LLC. You can introduce it, Mr. City Manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, this is for Mr. Karen. We have gone ahead and done all of his inspections, as well as he has paid the necessary fees. All is up to date and recommended for approval.
Thank you. Is there anybody, we'll open up the public comments at this time. If there anybody who would like to speak for or against this proposal, So the public comment period's open. Is there anybody from SMC here tonight like to speak? No? Okay. So we'll close the public comment period and ask for council's comments. I'll speak on behalf of my next door neighbor. This is the Presque Island Convention Center. And the next door neighbor, it's been dormant for a few years while they're been doing some remodeling. And the sign went up today. Looks pretty cool.
Good.
So looking forward to seeing activity next door. So that's all I have to say. Any other comments? Would anybody like to make a motion then?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve a lodging establishment license to Scott Karen SMC Holdings LLC with a location of 116 Main Street.
Been moved by Jeff,
Second.
seconded by Gary. Is there any other comments? None? Seeing none? All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? One abstention. Conflict of interest. So 601. Thank you. So that's the end of our public hearing portion of tonight's agenda, and now we'll move to the citizen comments portion of tonight's agenda. This is when people have the opportunity to come to the podium. Please state your name and where you live. We're asking for people from Presque Isle to comment. And please limit your comments to a few minutes, please. So we'll open up citizen comments at this point in time. Anybody that'd like to come on up? First come, first serve. Hello, how are you? Yes, come on right in. Welcome.
You can pull the.
I'm short, sorry. Hello, my name is Heather Mazarov. I'm a resident of Presque Isle, and I have a statement to read to you guys. Dear City Council and City Manager Brown, I'm speaking on behalf of myself, many residents of Presque Isle, and the Board of Pride Aroostook. It has been brought to our attention that this council has not yet reapproved the Pride flag raising this year, nor the recognition of Maine Pride Month this June. Last year, we were very proud of the city for the Pride flag raising and recognition of Pride Month, following Governor Janet Mills' statewide proclamation in 2023 regarding the recognition of Pride Month. Last year, this city released a citywide proclamation stating, "Be it further resolved that the City of Presque Isle encourages all residents to eliminate prejudice everywhere it exists, respect the rights of all people, recognize the contributions and achievements of the LGBTQIA2S+ community, and to celebrate the great diversity of our city." We were not only excited, but very proud that the City Council for this forward-thinking and courageous declaration. This move by the city was inspired by our governor, Janet Mills, who in 2023 created the State of Maine proclamation to celebrate the LGBTQ Pride Month throughout the state. And to quote said proclamation, "Here in Maine, we are committed to treating all people fairly, with dignity and respect, and together we will continue to work towards full equality for our LGBTQ family, friends, and neighbors." We are those family, friends, and neighbors who want to continue to live and thrive in this community because we see the potential for the city to become diverse and accepting home that we want to live in and remain in while making our economic contributions to the stability of the region. Per the UCLA Law School, in key findings regarding the links between economic development, new measures of LGBTQ inclusion, recent research has found a correlation between the rights related to homosexuality in a country and that country's level of economic development. The more rights are associated with higher GDP per capita, putting both sources of evidence together suggests that stigma and discrimination against LGBT people undermines LGBT inclusion and reduces economic development. The city of Presque Isle publicly proclaims itself the hub of Aroostook, with good reason, both due to its growing economy and population. Pride Aroostook's decision to locate our annual Pride Festival here is in part said to growth and the potential, as well as the centralized location, and Presque Isle being the largest city in the entire county. Our Pride Festival brings support to the local economy and tourism not only from Aroostook County, but tourist and community members from other parts of the state. We make a very conscious effort to support the city of Presque Isle and your constituents with our events and work towards creating a safer space for everyone to gather. As a person who was personally recruited from out of state to move to Maine, one of my first thoughts when I'm like, oh my gosh, Maine, it wasn't what is the pay? It was, is it safe? I had no idea about Maine. And I'm not alone. We actually had someone email our Aroostook Pride Facebook page last week and ask, I was offered a job here. Is it safe to move here? What's it like here? Last year, Chairman Shaw read a proclamation that the city of Presque Isle would recognize June as the LGBT month, Pride Month, and that the city would unequivocally show its support by directly flying the pride flag. I just have to ask, what's changed? A flag is not a simple thing. It becomes a symbol that shows that we'll be welcome and that people care. By not including the pride flag this year, when you approved it last year, what does that show? I have to ask again, what's changed? Are those statements I read earlier no longer the belief of the council? What do I tell someone? People are nice, but your council doesn't feel that we are important enough to be part of the community? We fought very hard to come out of the closet and simply asked to be seen. What is this saying to those youth in the county? Does this reaffirm their belief that they need to leave Presque Isle to be themselves? If a flag can show this kind of support, why would this council not reapprove raising this flag, especially in light of our governor's own recent declarations? We're here. We're not going away. Thank you for your time, and we hope that you will continue to show your support for all your constituents, your taxpayers, and your neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come on up and, hello, welcome.
Hi, my name is Elise Keene. I also live in Presque Isle. Good evening, council and community. I'm before you today on behalf of Pride Aroostook, a local nonprofit that aims to uplift and protect Aroostook County's LGBTQ+ community, to speak on the topic of showing support to our community with the recognition of Pride Month in June and the raising of a flag. I want to acknowledge up front that while some of you may recognize me as an employee of the city, I'm not here to speak on behalf of my department, but rather as one of your constituents, being a resident of Presque Isle. In addition to being the recording secretary for the Board of Pride Aroostook, I'm also transgender and a proud member of the LGBTQ+ community, and most importantly was raised right here in Aroostook County. My brothers were born in Presque Isle. My mother was born and raised in Presque Isle. My grandfather was born and raised in Presque Isle. At least 3 generations of my family have had the privilege of seeing this community grow and drastically change over time. As a closeted high schooler in the early 2010s, I held the belief that many of our county's youth still have in their hearts that if I did not make it out of here, my life would be over. To die here was the worst fate imaginable. There were no open and affirming proms, there were no pride festivals, and the few outed queer individuals who were unable to hide their identities were treated incredibly poorly by my peers. Believing this to be the situation of my community as a whole, I made it my sole mission to overachieve academically and secure my ticket to getting as far away from here as possible. I spent time away earning my secondary education, and when I burned out graduating from college, I moved home for what was meant to be a brief period of job searching while I saved up to leave again. When plans needed to shift, I very luckily found a job at a disproportionately large small-town library, and as of this June, I've been with that library for the last 5 years. My younger self would be devastated to learn the way that my core values have shifted over the 10 years since I left high school. I was not a proud county kid, and I wanted nothing to do with anybody here. Life had a funny way of turning that around on me, and despite years of jaded pessimism and fighting against it, I have had to come to terms with the fact that I love this city. I love chatting with the people at City Hall when I come to pick up the bills. I love all the volunteers who come in to meet their graduation requirements. I love all of the people who come to my desk for recommendations, for help printing off their flyers, for tech services and troubleshooting, for background checking services, and just for a nice chat when they're out running errands. I see so many people in this community for so many different reasons, and even when they're sometimes rude to me, I love them because I believe in the importance of hospitality and building up a small community where everybody can feel welcome. Pride Aroostook's mission aligns with the goals of the city of Presque Isle. We believe that this city is not only a place to grow up in, but a community you can stay in long term. We believe that there's a value in living a simple and quiet life in a charming small town. And we believe in the right to safety, security, and community. To extend something as simple as a mere symbol of solidarity between these two institutions feels like an astronomically small step, but if we do not take a step, then we will never move forward. This flag raising would have meant a lot to a very defeated teenager a decade ago, and I believe it can mean a lot now. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you. We have another. Hello, hello. Welcome.
Hi there, I'm Jeff Ashby. I am a Presque citizen, and I rise to speak on behalf of raising the pride flag over the city offices. As I understand it, and I may be wrong, it's sort of rumored, I'm not sure there's anything formally on the agenda, but that it's been contemplated that there will be a decision perhaps to not fly the flag over the city this June, and then also it's in the wind that it's being considered that we'll have some sort of ordinance that limits the flying of flags over the city to only state and federal flags. And someone asked a moment ago what changed, and I wonder if folks have been listening to threats of litigation or have heard about Supreme Court cases and are fearful that somehow flying the pride flag exposes the city to some liability. I think that's, I wish this were interactive so we could have this conversation. Because I think that's what's happening here. Because here's one thing I do know. I know most of you. I know none of you are bigots. I know that. And I know that you don't want to offend any members of our community. I had a speech, by the way. It's right here. Everybody else said all the stuff I wanted to say in my speech, so I'm not going to say that. Instead, I'll be all lawyerly. Well, I'll also remind you, have you ever seen how many people come to the Pride Day here in Presque Isle? It's a huge turnout. And if you're doing just electoral calculus, look at how many people are here in support of flying the flag over the city. And I'm guessing that there aren't that many people that are opposed to it. And probably the people that are opposed to it won't show their faces because they're kind of on the wrong side of history on this one. And so it's not really hard for all of you who are not bigots to fly the flag. You agreed to do it last year. It's not that hard. I will tell you, based on some of the comments made today, there are people who have moved here or will move here and will live here and will spend money here because you fly the flag over the city. You have to know that's the case, and that differentiates us from cities where that doesn't happen. So maybe the worry is litigation. I get that, I guess. I understand that. I'm not here speaking on behalf of the Human Rights Commission. I'm no longer on the commission, but until earlier this year, I was the chair of the Human Rights Commission. So I'm very much aware of what the Maine Human Rights Act says, and I'm very much aware of discrimination law, and I will tell you, rest easy. You will not get in trouble if you fly the pride flag over your city. So in 2022, the U.S. Supreme Court decided the case of Shurtiff versus the city of Boston. And that was a case involving the city of Boston was being sued because they said some fellow couldn't fly a flag on a flagpole provided by the city that promoted Christianity. And the city of Boston was sued for discriminating. First Amendment, it was a First Amendment rights issue. And the city of Boston lost. They actually lost that. It should make the city of Presque really nervous, right? Oh my God. Some guy wanted to fly a flag. The city said no. And the city got sued, and the city lost in the U.S. Supreme Court. But that case stands for the proposition that you shouldn't let your flagpole be like a bulletin board for the public to just willy-nilly put stuff up anytime they want, and if the city steps in at some point, that's called private speech, by the way, not government-sponsored speech. If the government steps in at some point and stops this private speech, they're going to get in trouble on the First Amendment grounds. So what Shurtiff stands for is the proposition that, in fact, you folks should adopt an ordinance. And I support that. And I'll help you draft one if you want. You absolutely should adopt an ordinance that decides, that gives you the authority to decide and set up criteria for when you fly flags over the city hall. And once you do that, your speech becomes government speech, not private speech. And government speech, the quote from Shurtiff is, I wrote it down, when the government speaks for itself, the First Amendment does not demand airtime for all views. So when you fly the pride flag, some white supremacist doesn't get to come up and say, well, how about flying the white supremacist flag? First of all, there is no such flag, I hope. Well, we can all say that maybe the stars and bars, but you can choose based on history, based on what you want to prioritize, based on months that are proclaimed by the governor to be special months. I mean, you folks fly Well, you fly the rotary flag. Do you want to stop doing that? You don't want an ordinance that says we don't fly any flags except the state and federal flag. You fly the MIA POW flag. Go out there tomorrow and tell all the veterans that you're now made a decision to no longer fly the POW MIA flag and see what kind of response you get. You don't have a room big enough to get people in here speaking against that. So don't do that. Instead, I do think you need to, you should, you must adopt an ordinance that talks about when you fly flags and when you don't. Give yourself a lot of authority to have discretion. Maybe make it something that you vote on for each request. That's fair. Once you do that, you're not violating the Constitution. You're home free. And you can fly a pride flag and you don't have to fly a heterosexual flag. First of all, again, I don't think there is such a thing. You don't have to fly it. You can say no, and you can do it with your head held high, and it's the right thing to do. So I hope I've addressed what I think is probably the concern that you folks are facing and that you're worried about. It's that slippery slope argument, right? I hope I've addressed that. And if we've addressed that, and then we all know we're not bigots, and then we all know that the flag makes you feel great, gay or straight, lesbian, transgender, doesn't matter. It makes you feel great that your city does that. It just makes you feel great. It makes these people feel really, these people, that's awful. It makes, it makes us all as a community feel really great. Again, have you seen how many people go to that Pride Day? I encourage you to actually do the electoral calculus. And you're gonna be better, we'll vote for you if you do this. It's the right thing to do. It's made me proud, so proud to do it. And what an awful thing for people to perceive. Again, I don't think this is true. What an awful thing for people to perceive. Last year we did it. We had this proclamation. We got up and said this thing. It was really great. We support it. Now we've decided not to do it. But not only have we decided not to do it, we're so against doing it that we're going to we're going to make an amendment to make it so we can't do it for anybody else ever again. We're so against flying the gay flag that we're going to hurt the veterans and the Rotarians. Can you imagine if that's the message that comes out of here? I don't think you feel that way, so don't do it. So please, I'll help you to the ordinance if you want. Let's get it done before June 1 so we can get that flag up there, but please do so. It means a lot to a lot of people.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Come on out.
My name's James Mitchell. I live in Presque, and I came to the meeting just to show support for the LGBTQ, but that's not why I came up to comment. I was thinking about all the talk about the solar permits and the land use, and well, I'm not a farmer. I have an environmental engineering graduate degree that mostly focused on building models for crop use and what happens with carbon loss. And I think the thing to think about with that is there's a lot of solar leasing that's going on, and it's encroaching on farmland because they make more money. And it's destroying the farmland. And not only does it destroy the farmland when they put a solar installation on it, like you'll probably never be able to farm on it again sometimes. There's like a lot of dust kicked up, and it's actually destroying other adjacent farmland. So I would, I'm not an expert on it, but I would urge you to not so much think about it, about whether you're providing like wildflowers or bee habitat, but that's important, but think about what is the actual impact on the farmland in addition to the business use of it. I think that's, I don't think that was really brought up or thought about, and I think that's, should be part of it. If you're making a business decision, that should be what you think about.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Thanks.
Greetings.
Greetings, everyone.
Welcome.
Forgive me, everyone. I am quite anxious. I have a little bit of social anxiety, but I do want to continue reiterating from what Mr. Ashby said. I am a veteran. And for me, hearing that there's a possibility that the POW MIA flag cannot be flown, especially with how many veterans we do have in the area, and to see in the eyes of those who have served and have had to face those fights, you can kind of understand why a lot of people, even if it is about LGBTQ, it does not matter. There are many of us here, and I'm sure there might be some on the council. I don't know any of you, and I'm not sure of your backgrounds. But for many who have had family, who have had friends, who have had gone through horrible, like, traumatic experiences, I'm not going to comment on what I've had to go through. But needless to say, there has been some trauma. My own granduncle was MIA for about 2 weeks in Germany during World War II. He was stuck in a foxhole. No one could find him. To this day, POW MIA to me tells me that everyone, every family member, every person in this country, every person in this county, the sacrifices that had to be made was made not because of some ideology. It's because we know what we need to do. We are the county folks. We know what needs to be done. We know, every single one of us knows that what's important. So if that really was a plan, I among as many in this room and out there in Presque Isle will ask you, please reconsider. Yes, I understand some people may have issues with that flag in question, but are you willing to sacrifice everything else? The Rotarians, POWs, MIAs, any other organization that may want to start anything, a fundraiser, a walk, a sport, anything in Presque Isle, at the moment that something like that occurs, they will say, no, I am sorry. It does not matter which flag it is, the moment you start telling people no, that we do not care, and it doesn't matter if you do or don't. It's the perception, and that is it. That is what is important as well, especially being on a council like yours. Thank you for your time, everyone, and I appreciate everything you've done.
Name?
Keith Endy, and I am from Presque Isle. I am very sorry, everyone. Like I said, I have a bit of social anxiety, but
Did a good job, Keith.
take
You're
care,
all set.
everyone. Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you very much. Then we will close the citizen comment period and move on to the next item on our agenda, which is our consent agenda for this evening to approve the minutes from April 3rd, 2024, to approve the 2024 warrants 11, 12, 13, and 14, totaling $1,848,891, to approve the employment agency license for Manpower, Inc., to approve a taxi cab service license for Carney's Taxi, to approve the appointment to Presque Isle Housing Authority for Marie Fediol, sorry Marie if I get your name wrong, and to approve an application for utility location permit on State Street from Versant, and to approve some drug forfeitures from the Presque Isle Police Department. So how does council want to address these? You want to take them separately or as one motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we take them as one motion, and I would move that we approve the consent agenda as you have just read.
Been moved by Craig and seconded by Hank. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda as presented? Opposed? 7-0. Thank you. Move. Oh. I guess my timer just went off. I'm done. Somebody's got to keep track of time. You guys did a great job keeping track of your own time, and thank you very much. Old business, nomination to the Presque Isle Development Fund Committee. So I'll start with Mr. City Manager. Tyler.
Yep, we just need a nominee for that.
Need a nominee. Is there one presented?
There is not.
So we're looking for a council nominee?
A council nominee,
Oh.
yes.
Is there anybody from Presque Isle City Council that would like to serve on the Development Fund Committee? And this is a one-year deal.
So, right now, who's on?
Who's on it?
Is there anyone?
Jeff.
I thought we had
Jeff and I are on it.
No, I was on it before James came. James, I believe,
Oh. So
was sitting on it, and that's what opened up that vacancy.
okay.
I got no issues going back on it.
We have a volunteer. Is there anybody else that would like to be nominated on the Presque Isle Development Fund? We'll close the nominations. Ask for a vote. All those in favor of Jeff Willett on the Presque Isle Development Fund Committee? Opposed? 6-0.
I abstain.
0-1. 6-0-1.
Congratulations, Jeff. Good deal.
Thank you, Jeff. Next item on our old business is to talk about the county tax bill, and this might require a little bit of explanation a little bit again. We talked about this last month, so.
Yes, the county, the Aroostook County is moving from the calendar year to the fiscal year for their for budgetary reasons. Due to this, we need to decide how we will pay the 6-month gap in taxes in order to get them whole. What we have done is chosen, or we recommend approval of the. What we do is we recommend approval of choosing option 3, where we utilize the scenario 3, where we utilize all time available. Essentially selecting to pay the 6-month county tax bill in 3 payment years. There is no penalty for this, and there's no penalty for us to do that. So that allows us, or affords us, the opportunity for more time to see how the revenue share comes in, and we can prepay it if necessary.
All right, so a 6-month bill is $582,000 in scenario 1, and an estimate of $1,164,000, which is probably double what the first one number was. We have a current budget of $953, so we'd have an additional cost of $793,478. If we paid that off quickly, it would result in approximately a 1.38 mil increase. Scenario 2, to pay it off over 2 years, similar numbers, a 0.88 mil increase. And scenario 3, the longest one, would result in an increase in the mill rate, just this segment alone, of 0.71 mils. So not quite 3/4 of a mil. So if we get more revenue and we decide we can pay this off earlier, then there's a substantial reduction in
Correct.
this impact. This might be the worst case scenario, I'm assuming.
These are all worst case scenarios based upon the options we had, yes.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments about this?
No, I think we kind of covered that last meeting on what our options were, and I'm fine with all of that. So I'll move that we take Tyler's recommendation that we pay the 18-month bill basically over a 3-year period.
Okay, moved by Craig, seconded by Jeff, to pay the county tax bill over a 3-year period or sooner if appropriate, without penalty. I don't think they're charging us interest either, right? Yep. What a guys. Way to go, county budget. Been moved by Craig, seconded by Jeff. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? 7-0. Thank you. Approved. Motion approved. All right. Next item, make sure my glasses are on right here. Under old business is approval of a lodging establishment license for Martin's Manor at 5 Exchange Street. So we'll start with Tim or Tyler.
Yes, at this time, for 5 Exchange Street, a permit has been pulled for the staircase, and there are plans in place for the staircase to be built. In addition, the Martins have met with me on a weekly basis, and they have, in addition, come up to date and current on their taxes for those rooming houses to ensure that they are in compliance with our ordinance. So at this time, they are in process of building the staircase and moving forward with that, and they've been very good in the process of working with us.
Great. Tim, you wanna, you've had eyes on the site, we haven't, so what's it looking like?
So the last I was at the site, they had done some demo. They removed the old one in preparation for the new one, but they've obtained their permit and done all the necessary planning procedures. It's just now to assemble the parts and actually construct the staircase. So I think they're well on their way.
How we looking, Eric?
Good.
Things are good?
Yeah. Yes, going a lot quicker than we expected, so.
Great.
Good news.
Good job. Any other comments? Seeing none, is there a motion on the,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve a lodging establishment licenses to Fernand Martin for Martin's Manor Rentals LLC with a location at 5 Exchange Street.
do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Been moved by Jeff and seconded by Hank. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? Did you say yes?
I said
Yep, 7-0. Thank you. All right, guys, thank you. Good job. New business, nominations for appointment to Northern Maine Development Commission. So we'll go back to the city manager.
Yes, 2 nominees for the Northern Maine Development Commission. That will replace Martin Puckett and Galen Webley.
Pardon me?
2 nominations are necessary for Northern Maine Development Commission. They will replace Martin Puckett and Galen Webley.
Oh, okay. All right, so those are our previous appointments for last year. And I would nominate Tyler Brown as one of the candidates to the Northern Maine Development Commission to replace Martin Puckett.
And I would nominate Kevin Freeman for the other position.
Okay. Is there any other nominations? Anybody else would like to be
Yeah,
on
it's-
an MDC? All right, so we have myself and our city manager to an MDC for a period of 1 year. Any other comments? And all those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. And thank you, Tyler. Next item is the fire department SCBA compressor and fill station. You want to introduce that one? Is Daryl here? No, Nate's here. Okay.
Nate's here if you'd like to speak. This is pretty straightforward. Essentially, we would like your approval to offer our used the SCBA compressor that we replaced. We'd like to offer that to Mars Hill, and they will be a secondary source to have in the county as well, so we can utilize that as a backup in the future. We feel it best to help our partner community and also make sure that there is a close by backup.
Nate, you want to talk about it a little bit?
Tyler basically hit it on the head. We put the new one in, the new one's all set up and going. We did try to find people that would like, or companies that would take it in on trade-in. There's nobody out there. Our old one, the first one that we ever received, was in storage, and we actually just got rid of it probably 5-6 years ago. So we have a few options: scrap it for metal, or store it, or give it to another community.
It's in usable shape, and Mars Hill has a need for it.
Yeah, they're definitely going to be putting some money into it, but yes.
Okay. Wonderful.
That's good use.
Anybody else have any comments for Nate or for Tyler? Anybody like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would approve that we make the donation to the Presque Fire Department scuba compressor and fill station to the Marcel Fire Department with the stipulation that Presque can use it anytime the old compressor we need to.
Awesome. Been moved by Garrett, seconded by Kevin. All those. Let's go, guys. Come on, let's
You ready?
go. Let's do this. Any other comments or questions? No? All those in favor? All those opposed? Congratulations, made your first motion. Good job. Next item on the agenda is the assessing update. So we'll start with Tyler.
I'm going to ask Mr. Cousins, Lewis Cousins, our assessor, to come up, and he is much more knowledgeable on this subject and better
Hello,
prepared
Lou.
to speak.
Good evening. Thank you. This is informational, really. We don't need any action, but just to let you know that, again, this year our values have come in lower than the state is putting us at by a good 5%. So this is based on the sales that did happen in '22. We knew it was coming, but just putting out the warning that there's going to be increases again this year. I haven't done the work to decide or see what's going to increase, but we're short a fair amount of money there. So
So, Lois, just kind of so that the public understands and
Yep.
and all of us are kind of on board, the state monitors sales of public and private properties in the community.
Yep.
They assess a value to those. They compare them to what we assess them for taxes, correct?
Yep.
And then they come back and say if our tax value of those properties match what the true market value is from the sales.
Yep, you're exactly right.
Okay.
And the difference between the two is called the ratio. That's big, huh? The reason we need to stay current with that is we lose money if we don't. The individual folks who are homestead qualified, the state law gives them a $25,000 exemption. That gets reduced by $1,250 if we certify 5% less than we should. And cumulatively, that adds up to $53,000 that the taxpayers of the city lose. On the city side itself, our homestead reimbursement, the 50% we get back, and the Betty reimbursement and tree growth reimbursements, the city would lose $80,537 if we don't make those adjustments. So, and it gets to stay in the state's budget, in the state's coffers, if we don't get it.
So you're starting work now to reassess properties in different categories and trying to figure it out. It's gonna take a few months.
They'll be ready by July. It'll happen in June. And yes, we have to study the sales that did happen, see which ones were outliers and why they were outliers, and make adjustments to make them blend back in.
So more information to come.
When we do commitment in July.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thanks, Louis.
We're good, Tyler? Move on to the next one? Okay. Aroostook County Tourism Update.
And have Kim come up and give that update.
Good evening, Council. Kim Smith,
evening.
Resource Development and Public Information Officer. I recently spoke to you about the fall tourism statistics, but now all of 2023 is out, and I think you'll find this very interesting. Tourism is the largest industry in the state of Maine, and I don't know if people really understand the impact that has, and it affects each and every one of us, and so some of these are really going to demonstrate that for you. Compared to visitors of other regions, the visitors to Aroostook County are more likely to be from Maine or Canada, stay with friends or family, participate in outdoor activities, and say the friendliness of people and being authentic and unique exceeded their expectations. The economic impact from tourism for the state of Maine was up 3.5% from the previous year to a total of $255,058,200. Visitor spending also up 5.5% to $169,599,300. Visitors up 17.5% to $332,400 for Aroostook County. Visitors, the number of days they stayed in the county was up 12.1%. And this is where it starts to set in as far as the impact. This means that the visitors to Aroostook County supported 2,260 jobs throughout the county. That's a lot. Every 147 visitors support a new job in Aroostook County. Visitors to Aroostook County supported $80,543,300 in Aroostook County employee wages. Visitors saved Aroostook households $893 in state and local taxes. The typical Maine visitor is 49 years of age, 89% are white, 61% are college graduates, 71% are married or in a domestic partnership, 57% of them are employed, and the annual household income is $83,800. Of the visitors that came to Aroostook County in 2023, 21% were first-time visitors. 77% drove rather than flew. If they did fly, sorry, Scott, they came into Bangor or Boston. 96% say they will return. That's good news. That's good news. 38% got their information for their trip via social media, Sean. And that's the highest percentage of the ad sources was the social media. So, as you can see, this is pretty impactful. And we need to really think about tourism and the tourism dollars, and every one of us has an effect. When they walk into a convenience store and they say to the clerk, "What is there to do around here?" And the clerk says, "Nothing." There's always something to do here. It may not be something you like to do, but there's always something to do in Aroostook County. We have an amazing area that we live in, and it's beautiful, and there's so much to offer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thanks for the update, Kim. My eyeball's back on. New business item 21, approval of MDOT grant. So, talk with the city manager again.
Yep, this grant has been awarded to us. We just really need you to sign, more of an informational. Or if you want to vote for essentially,
Do we know what the total construction cost is? Estimated.
for which culvert? There's two. There's
540.
470, sorry.
So this is for everybody that's maybe online or watching this at home. This is regarding a partially washed out culvert on the Egypt Road at Williams Brook, locally known. So they're replacing two 5-foot culverts with a 22-foot long bridge. And this would allow us to gain access to a grant to the tune of $270.
We've already been afforded the grant. This is just your approval to sign.
Yep.
I just need your approval to sign the grant.
Great.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the acceptance of the DOT grant and authorize City Manager Brown to sign the grant agreement.
I'll second it.
Moved by Craig and seconded by Hank. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? All those opposed? 7-0. Thank you very much. Well, that'll conclude the agenda for tonight, and we'll go directly now to the manager's report. So, Mr. Tyler Brown, you have the floor.
I'll do this. I'll stand up here since the TV microphones are up here. It's like an icebox up here. How'd you survive, Tim, being up here for so long? That said, first and foremost, I do want to say welcome to Miss Sean Cunningham joining our city team. Sean will be joining us and further developing our digital media and communication strategy. As you just heard from Kim, social media accounts for a lot of individuals that come into our county. And it's the future. It's here. We have to embrace it, and we've got to let folks know how to get here. So, that said, Sean is going to lead part of that effort, and she's also going to be helping out with our forum as well, working with the team there on promotional events and ensuring that we can bring in different acts and things of that nature. So it'll be a really great opportunity. We're very blessed to have her skill set and her expertise, and really looking forward to it. It's been a good couple days so far. So
Great.
thank you. A couple updates. First, our Presque Isle Police Department. Okay, so comparison year over year. Total calls for service were up quite a bit. Total calls for service in 2023 were 1,054. This past month of April 24, 1,216. So again, our calls continue to rise. That's in addition, great work by Chris and his team. They've partnered with AMHC. AMHC is going to be staged within the police department moving forward to assist with mental health and crisis response for the police department. Tremendous, tremendous opportunity, and really definitely needed. You see a lot of communities are doing this across the country, and it's great to have that support. So very proud of the police department and what they've done to make that happen. All right, our favorite subject, code enforcement and permits. In the month of April, we completed 120 building inspections. That is 45 more than we have all year. We completed 32 electrical inspections, 16 plumbing inspections. We had 89 complaints of litter or trash, violations of our litter or trash ordinance. So 89 inspections resulted in over 89 letters being sent out to the community. And while we're on that topic, Community Cleanup Day, I do want to just say thank you very much, Mr. Jeff Willett, for sponsoring and leading that. I really appreciate all that came out. We had over 100 folks come out for Community Cleanup Day. And if you can believe these stats, 150 TVs were removed. We had one roll-off full of washers, dryers, appliances, a whole big roll-off, 5 giant dumpsters of brush, and a total of 5,800 pounds of trash collected in total by the community. It just, again, you know, as we all talk about the county, the community, you know, that's one of the great parts about being here in Presque Isle. People come out and support, and it's just amazing. So very proud of the team for that. So big kudos to Tricia and Tyler Clark, Tricia Ausby and Tyler Clark, for leading that effort and doing a great job with it. And did you know we have the second busiest library in the state of Maine? It's incredibly, pretty large. Yeah. Second busiest library in the state of Maine. They had 3,087 walk-ins last month. 1,841 books were checked out. 147 fingerprinting appointments. 13 passports were facilitated. If you think about that, quite a lot of services that they provide our community. So, folks, we've got a great library. Get out there and read, or get your fingerprints, or your TSA pre-check, or you can even do an IRS visit too, which none of us want to do. But that said, and then just a plug for the rec center. I know the summer offering, or the next offerings are out for the next round of classes and activities. So please get on there and sign up fast. Great, wonderful programs are available for the spring and the summer. So thank you for that, and that's all I've got.
Thank you very much, sir. I have a few announcements for this evening before we. Greg, do you have an announcement that you'd like to talk about?
Oh, no, I've got some posters here for our event, so if you want to hang off in your business, this is for World War II planes, so I'll leave them here. Yep.
All right. Greg's unusually shy tonight, so he is leading an effort here, and you might have read a little bit about it, to once again have the D-Day Squadron back visiting Presque Isle. They'll be on the ground here Saturday, May 18th. You'll probably hear more about that in a week or two. So looks like there's 5 to 8 aircraft coming in. Got music. Want to ask people to put that on the calendar. Saturday, May 18th, 11 o'clock to about 5 in the afternoon. There'll be food and everything. Come on out and meet the pilots. And some of these people are the people that were in France, like they're in their 90s and whatever. So some nice history there. Come on out to the Presque Isle Airport General Aviation on May 18th. Closer to here and now, May 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, the annual Shrine Circus returns to the Forum here in Presque Isle. So tickets are available throughout the town. I even think maybe convenience stores and stuff have them also right now, or any Shriner. So, or you can buy them at the gate, at the door. So, May 2, 3, and 4. So, that starts tomorrow. 2024 NMCC graduation is on May 11th. That's going to be held at the Forum, and the public is invited to attend. And we wish all of those graduates best of luck. Chamber of Commerce is going to host a craft fair at the Forum. on May 17th and 18th. I believe that's a Saturday and a Sunday. So, okay. They're hosting a craft fair at the Forum on 17th and 18th. All right. Presque Isle's Farmers Market is open for the season on May 4th. I think that's this weekend. So come on out Saturday. It's going to be a pretty good day, and support area farmers and get some fresh product. As what Kim mentioned earlier this evening about tourism, that's led by an organization that Kim and I are part of, the Aroostook County Tourism Group, a bunch of volunteers that have kind of steered and put guardrails around stuff. And we're having a summit. It's open to the public. It's May 8th, next Wednesday. It's going to be held at Frenchville Community Center. It's open to the public. No registrations required. But we'd like to have a head count for ploys and chicken stew that's going to be served absolutely free of charge. So if you are interested in tourism in Aroostook County or want to hear the data that Kim just mentioned, come on up to Frenchville at 8:30, about a 4-hour deal, and network and check it out. I'll be there, and I'm sure Kim will be too. County Fiddlehead Festival. I think I saw some pictures on Facebook. So the ferns are starting to pop up out of the mud. So that's that time of year, thank goodness. Fiddlehead Festival is, again, I think on year 3 or 4 in Presque Isle. And it is underway May 17th and 18th, the same weekend that we have the D-Day Squadron at the airport. So looking forward to those activities. The city has the following employment vacancies. We are looking for a police officer, full-time, an economic and community development director, again, full-time. If you have an interest in any of these jobs or vacancies, please come see the city clerk. We also have the following vacancies for boards and committees. Assessment review, we're looking for 2 people, 1-year alternates. Audit committees, looking for 1 4-year member. Downtown revitalization, that's the group that's basically hosting our Rockin' on Riverside and many other downtown activities throughout the year. Great organization to be a part of. If you want to get a part of that effort, we're looking for 1 4-year member. Library Board of Trustees, that busy place over there, that's number 2 in the state. Well, they're still looking for a trustee right now. So if you want to be a part of that great effort, go see Sonia over at the Presque Isle Public Library. Recs and Parks Department, 3 1-year alternates. The Zoning Board, 1 1-year alternate. So again, you can contact the city manager or the city clerk for any of these or applications or for more information. And with that, I would like to announce that the next meeting of the Presque Isle City Council will be on Wednesday, June 5th at 6 p.m. here in the council chambers. And with that, I conclude the announcements for tonight and ask the council to move into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 456C to discuss real estate. So move. Second. All those in favor?